Hello, hello, and welcome to Black Sky Legion, a special interview. We've got an opportunity to talk with two former CIG employees who will tell you who they are and what they did for the company, and to kind of have a little talk about different aspects of Star Citizen and some things that they thought that our community might want to know. Why don't we start with Wiley? Introduce yourself and what you did with CIG.
Hi, I'm Wiley. I was a concierge support specialist out of the Austin studio.
Absolutely, very cool. And can you just tell people, like, what is a concierge support specialist? Because this is
So
a
I
new
worked,
thing.
yeah, I worked as part of the player relations team, um, and concierge support specialists dealt with the sort of the highest tier of backer on the Star Citizen project.
Right
So
on.
people who had spent um, higher amounts of money.
Okay. And which? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Um, my name's Witch. I worked at the Austin CIG studio, and I had three roles. Um, First role was I was a animator and motion editor. I worked on um, narrative animations like commercials, cinematics. Also worked on persistent universe animations. Player interactions with characters getting in and out of stuff, or NPC characters, or mission givers. Um, Second role was I was their in-house motion capture performer for Austin, and most of the performances that I would do are either things like hit or death cells, or entering and exiting cockpits, or
Hmm.
gun turrets and usables, things like that, or then and also doing pickups for just the first unit performances in the UK. And then the third role was establishing and policing metrics initially, and then helping to maintain that um, with the rest of the team.
Absolutely. So, with the metrics thing, I heard a phenomenal interview that you guys did with Board Gamer, and everybody should definitely go check that out. Um, Help explain a little bit more about how you explained in that interview of like you went in and said, hey, look, this works like this, and here, let's do the math, and how that all happened out.
Um, yeah, sure. So the I think early on, I got together day one with Brian Brewer, who was the animation lead at the Austin studio, and we started going through over just I was like, all right, let's write a checklist, bullet points of what we need to take care of that you think are super high priority. And one of the things at the top of that list was metrics. And metrics is it's literally it's, to put it simply, it's, can a human fit with human proportions, fit in this chair, or can they hold this, this gun, or this, this basically interact with anything. It's going to have to be
Mm-hmm.
to the correct scale. Um, and then the bigger problem is that, or one of the benefits of it is that um, if you can standardize everything on a really simple like building block template, you can give that to the asset teams and say, okay, every chair now of this type, if you guys build it to this height, we can reproduce animations. We can keep the animation footprint to a smaller scale, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Give an example. Assassin's Creed is a great example of uh, every asset and where the way everything is positioned in the level for Assassin's Creed. The character, can, to a certain extent, can detect and adjust. But when he's running and flipping and climbing up all the stuff, everything is to a standardized metric. So there isn't anything that's bespoke that causes another additional animation that they have to spend on. So anyway, so we started we started looking at this and crunching the numbers, and I realized for the cockpits, originally we had 7 cockpit types: HOTAS CL, HOTAS RL, dual stick, yoke W, yada yada yada. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take the yoke W for an example. The yoke W is it's you see them on 747s, where it's kind of a, it's almost kind of like half a steering wheel, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it looks
The
like an
handler.
F1 steering wheel
Yeah.
almost.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So on the 300i, it was one certain size. So when I started going and doing fittings to the cockpits, I realized that 300i would be one size yoke W, and it would be in a different position. And then even the seat would be kind of reclined a little differently. And then I went to something like an 85X. I realized that it was different. And so I started going through and looking at all the files. Like, oh my gosh, every single one of these has a different. The yoke W is not standardized. It's in a different position.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem with it is, and the counter to it is like, well, I just throw IK on. But the problem is that it doesn't take much to lock arms. And if you want a character to pass out off of the flight stick, or handle G-forces, things like that, or enter and exit, um, you know, the more you move that around, the less room you're going to have to do performances. So I basically said, we need to make sure that these are all standardized, or else our animation footprint is going to blow up, 10 times what it is or more. I got together with Brian. We talked about it. We crunched the numbers, and then to make it short, I brought that in front of Chris Robertson and said, hey, look, here's what you're going to get if we continue down this path, but here's what you will get if we do this, and here's the benefits we get from it. And it showed that that it would take less animations, and also the other benefit too is that man hours would drastically reduce man hours. So artists wouldn't have to artists wouldn't be in just one room building an asset, and then they would throw it over the fence to us, and we would get it on the mocap side or on the animation side and go, oh my gosh, we can't work with it. The chair's too small or whatever it is, or we actually could talk to them early on with this template and say, use this, build around this, and then we'll never have to come back to you. You're building it once, but we're going to use it probably 500 to 1,000 times with different animations.
Right on.
And then if there needs to be a variation, let's talk about it. Cool, let's make another template for that. Yeah. So that worked out really well. And Star Citizen is one of the few projects where metrics are crucial, and they were able to enforce that early on. Also, I forgot to add too, that became a full-time job. So CR realizing that said, okay, well, we need to put a team together for that. So they ended up hiring Ben Curtis, who now polices that. But for years, I would go back and forth and work with him. And I think one of my favorite ones was, one of my favorite stories was, there was a concept artist, I think it was like 2018, 2017. I was in the UK, and there was a concept artist that reached out to me and said, hey, I gotta put together this, it's like it belongs in the mini hab or in the ships, and it's basically like a really compact, like shower toilet kind of thing. And they said I should come talk to you about it. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, let's get together. So I took 3 or 4 templates and mashed them together and checked out the measurements, and then gave it to that guy. And then maybe 2-3 months later, there was a fully working that hab, or that shower component is in all of the mini habs in the ships now. They're just, but you could see the variety. You could see the different looks that they have, but it's the same metric.
Right on. Well, with that in mind, let me ask you, What's your take on the from 3.14 the sliced cockpits? How they have all of this stuff set up, where the modularity and the ability to, now that you have the metrics locked and you have the central locations and you've got the measurements of the stick and whatever, now they're going to have so much more abilities with all of these extra, like, oh, Drake ships might have, cockpits of this sort of design philosophy, and Crusader with this and that. And what do you think of all that?
Um, I think at the very core, the metrics will still apply. Um,
Mm-hmm.
you can you could still use the templates, but um, you'll be able to swap out components, and they won't really affect the pilot animations or the gunner animations, and uh, and it's for two reasons. One is um, we we put together um, we put together three aspects to the metric, and worked it out with the art teams and tech animation. The first one is, let's say on the Hornet, the HOTAS center left control stick and throttle. You sit in a reclined seat, your stick is right between your legs, and then your left hand, that's your right hand, and then your left hand is on that throttle, right? And then you have a place where your right elbow rests on the cockpit,
Mm-hmm.
and you can um, so hands on stick and throttle, that is your position, and everything can be modeled around it. In addition to that, or say, let's see, the contour of the control and the throttle and the seat, all variations can kind of be built off of that. The the ejection handle, the second part is the bubble, okay, and the bubble is where how far the human male and female can reach with their fingertips, overhead, to the side, to the front.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Even that ejection handle, can they reach that? Um, so the second part of that metric is basically the bubble that allows you to to be able to reach all of those buttons without having to get out of the seat, right?
Mm.
You can comfortably and quickly do it. And oh, it's important to be able to do that without jarring the player's first person view.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the third area is the bubble outside of it, right? So, and that's basically anything outside of that you can build. They can go to town. They can do anything they want. Tentacles, mirrors, butterflies, whatever. Um, the um, so yeah, with yeah, with being able to interchange parts on chips, um, they can follow the same basic metric, and they can say, okay, well, how in depth do we need to get? Um, um, and based off of those three metric formulas, they can sort of pick their battles and say, okay, this is going to be an easy win because it's just a canopy change, right? Or this is going to be a little more complex because we're going to have to kind of get in and affect the seat and things like that. So it's really more on the asset side. Um, as long as they still follow the metric. And by the way, the other thing too is I forgot to mention is that metric also deals with line of sight to the gun sights,
Mm-hmm.
um, and canopy visibility as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like if you want to have this enclosed too much, then you might want to embrace something else. Like maybe it's like maybe it's maybe it's all in an LCD display instead.
Yeah, like one of
You
those Talon ships or whatever, where it's got like the Thank
exactly.
Funky.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right on.
Um,
Good
yeah.
stuff. I think it's a beautiful thing about Star Citizen, the level of detail that's brought to every aspect of ship interiors and the rest of the galaxy is just incredible.
And the
You can,
player feedback with it
yeah.
too, which really fascinates me. Like we were talking about that earlier, but like I was thinking about the first time I'd really seen that attention to detail change based off of like fan feedback and the devs was I think it was the Avenger, the first Avenger, because there were things that just the players were like, yeah, this is too cumbersome, we don't like this, and I'd seen it too, and I was like, okay, well, I didn't think that was going to change. I think right as I was starting the company, they did the rework on it, and yeah, lo and behold, I was like, oh my God. And for me, I went and did playtest. I was like, oh my gosh, we changed this, we changed this. Oh, this is so much better.
Yeah.
How many times we get to do this? And they're like, well, we'll just keep a dialogue with them, and hopefully we can, get it as close as possible. You know, 100% perfect is the dream, but we'll just we'll keep working as time and budget allows. And that was cool that they took the time to do that. And ever since then, every single time there's a new ship based off of that learned stuff, or a older ship being brought up to spec, it's exciting to look at.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Wiley, let me ask you, as a
Mm-hmm.
concierge support specialist, what's your take on sort of the changing nature of that job as Star Citizen has evolved over the years as a project?
Um, so I think so I'm going to speak to my time there at CIG. I obviously wasn't privy to sort of what was going on internally before I worked there, or since I left the company. But during my time there, um, a lot of what changed about doing that job wasn't necessarily the ability to do uh, certain things for the backer. It was more so we would it was a question of working smarter in a way. So
Mm,
we created policy, right? And it sort of evolved in the sense that instead of taking requests kind of on a case by case basis, we would build policies, right? We'd get together as a team and say, okay, what what do we want to try and be able to do, and what aren't we going to be able to do, right? And obviously, a lot of that was influenced by um, by people at the executive level. Um, but the job itself, I always tried to act as sort of a backer advocate, right? Like if someone would say, hey, I a good example is servicemen, right? So we'd have a guy write in and say, "Hey, I was in Kuwait, or I was wherever he was, and not able to participate in a certain ship sale or an event. Can I please have access to whatever he was missing?" And every time we were able to say, "Yeah, we'll
oh,
help you
hell
out," right?
yeah. Hell yeah.
But it depended, right? We got requests like that. We got um, a lot of stuff that basically what we would do is we would see kind of common requests and common threads, and say, okay, instead of having to talk to each other on this stuff, we're all agreeing now that we're going to say yes to these and no to these. Stuff like, if someone has requested a refund for a transaction within 30 days, right? It's a yes every time. Um, if it's over 30 days, we have to talk about it. But under 30 days, which is, I think, double the amount required by law, actually,
Mm,
we'd say, yeah, absolutely. We'll refund your purchase. We'll pull whatever you bought kind of off your account, and you're good to go. No questions asked.
mm,
Um, but and it could have been like, as far as those requests goes, it could be something like, hey, I bought it you know with my credit card, and I actually wanted to use credit, or sorry, yeah, wanted to use credit.
mm.
And it uh, it evolved in the sense that, instead of, because the volume increased while I was there too,
Mhm.
you know like when I first started, it was kind of slow, and then within I think 3 to 4 months of me starting, it really picked up and didn't slow down at all while I was there. And so we had to kind of um, find a way to leverage policy, and to create policy to both make our jobs easier and kind of keep the player base happy at the same time.
And also, when you make a policy like that, instead of everything on a case by case by case, it gives the consumer sort of a stronger position of like, okay, I have realistic, sort of, there's a, what do you call it? There's like a history that I can look at and say, no, this tends to go this way, this tends to go that way, and now I have
Yeah,
better
yeah.
expectations of what my
And
outcome is going to be.
it's not necessarily that we were inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
before implementing that policy,
Hmm.
it became a matter of giving these player support agents um, a more concrete sort of set of guidelines
Mm-hmm.
that they could follow, right? Um, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. All right. All right. This question goes to both of you. Let's address the myth, the just stupid statement that has been repeated over and over and over that a lot of my community has heard for years because we were from the
Mm.
different tribe before we made the migration. Let's
Yeah.
address scam citizen. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Um, well, I mean, I mean, I can give my testimonial for it, and I'll start with that. For I guess I guess to change this up a little bit. I mean, um, I started out, you know, 20 over 20 years ago as a as a motion capture performer and a developer. And let's take motion capture for example. If
Mm-hmm.
you're looking at a product and you're like, well, I'll high level. I mean, there's always a certain amount um, of hiding to give the illusion that the product is absolutely perfect. So like if I was working on a new piece of motion capture tech and let's say the tracking wasn't perfect, that I'd have a dev tell me, hey, you know what, like just if it breaks, just do this and this will fix it really quick. So it gives the buyer the illusion that uh that the data is perfect.
Mm-hmm.
It was my job. I was an intern at the time. I was like, I don't feel comfortable with this, but okay, whatever. I guess that's part of the thing, right? Um, and that's trying to put a good spin on a product. I've been on other ones where it's been like, I mean, I've definitely been a victim as a dev on some pretty bad scams where the money's been embezzled, or it's like, the game's been shelved because
Mm-hmm.
of negligence. So going into Star Citizen, I mean, I daydreamed about working on something like this since I was like 7 years old when I saw Star Wars,
Right.
New Hope in the theaters, 1977. And this is my thought on this. If I, if I signed on to the project, um, um, was there for like the hangar module, and just watched all of that, got as much research as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Went Started playing the game basically in 2013. Went Joined the company in 2014. Worked there for 6 years full time, and then another year uh, freelance. And and all that while still play the game. I've been, Wiley and I both have been in it. We've seen how the sausage is made, and trust me, when I was there that first year, I was like, all right, it's just, I had my bullshit flashlight on, like, all right, is this a scam? Is it, but no, it's legit, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It is the real deal. And what's amazing about it is that it's really happened. This is something that would never happen in a traditional AAA studio.
Mm.
And I had even put together a design document for a project exactly like this, and I couldn't do it. And the reason why was because with a traditional investor and a publisher, there's no way that it would survive.
Mm.
Um, so my thought is, I mean, yeah, scam citizen, that's completely false. It's ridiculous. And even to the point where I can give a testimonial here, and obviously, like Wyland and I are both under NDA, and yeah, of course we're not going to be able to say everything that about the project, because there are things that we know that we're not allowed to talk about. So we're still partially under NDA to help protect the company and to protect the end product, so we don't give spoilers, or we don't
Sure.
hurt the company.
Sure.
So
Okay.
that's my thought.
Yeah, and
Wiley?
I think regardless of what testimony we could give, I mean, I had a similar experience to which I haven't been in the industry nearly as long as him, but in terms of Star Citizen, um, looking at, I mean, there is so so if it would have been a scam, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would have walked into the studio and it would have been a skeleton crew sitting around getting no work done, you know. If it was just a case of keeping up appearances, and that has never been the case at CIG, right? Like, people bust their butts there at Austin, at all the other studios, and outside of, I think they get a week after Christmas, um, and a lot of people even work through that. Like, it is the money that's going in, it's generating progress, right? It's generating um, sort of creative capital, so to speak.
Mm.
But regardless of our testimony, I mean, there's a lot of evidence as to what's public facing to indicate that it's happening, that these features are being built and the game's being built. And I mean, we were talking sort of before about how um, the addition of features is counter indicative that it's a scam, or that it's a sort of a falsehood, right?
Mm.
Like, as the money has come in, the project has grown in scope as appropriate to the funding. And I think that with some of those features coming online, and the expression of the intent of Star Citizen, and excuse me, of CIG, to build the best possible game and best possible sort of virtual universe that they can within reason, um,
Yeah.
would indicate that it's not a scam at all. And I think, as people, I think the best thing a person can do to know for sure whether it's a scam or not, or to kind of, if they have doubts, to put those to rest, is to watch a stream, watch a video, or wait till there's a free fly event, because those happen a few times a year. Make
I
an account,
oh
hop in.
I the first things you said, I'm 100% agreeing on. I just did a whole diatribe on the show on Friday of like, don't. I told everybody, don't wait till a free fly. Don't do it, because just from my viewpoint, and again,
Uh-huh.
I'm an idiot, so what do I know? But from my viewpoint, any of us who have played an MMO before, you know what it's like the first week when a new patch drops and 10 billion people are all trying to get on the same server and get on whatever. That, even games that are good, even games that are phenomenal, that are great, they kind of run like dog shit on the patch week because
Yeah.
everyone is slammed. And free fly weeks, like, that is the worst time to judge Star Citizen by. Don't do yourself a favor. Everyone who's listening to this that's a space gamer nerd, you have a friend somewhere in your circle, on your Discord, on your whatever, at your office, at your school, if you're a college kid, whatever, wherever you're at in your life. You have a friend in your circle that has Star Citizen. Ask and find them. And instead of testing it on the time when they are slammed with everyone and the servers are going to be chugging the worst, try it on a Wednesday and just hop in and play, and it's so much better. I told people, I said, look, there's a couple hundred of you that are in our Discord that, like, I know you. I said flat out, just spend the $45, and if it's not good, I'll Venmo you it. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I'm sorry. I
True,
get the
man, like,
idea of
No,
the
it's
free
okay.
fly, but that's a rough proposition.
Well, and so that was so that kind of the second part of what I was going to say too, though, is that um, outside of free fly and outside of live, they will still have issues, right?
Of
Like,
course.
it is not, it's not a complete product. And I think what someone needs to do to get a healthy understanding of the project is, especially people sort of in your circles and in your fan base that are coming from Elite, is it is not as developmentally mature as Elite is, right? There's still stuff they're working on, and the biggest sort of wins or biggest gains that are coming are going to be on the back end side
Mm.
with server meshing, and I think it's called
Entity graph.
Entity Graph. Thank
Hmm.
you. Yeah, they changed the name of it.
Yep.
And so
Yeah. Yep.
those are, that's still, um, in my opinion, that is still an issue for the game.
Oh, for
But
sure.
if if someone is absolutely just vehemently against giving any money to the project, um, a free fly is at least a way to
Fair enough.
maybe for them to get eyes on.
Fair enough.
But no, I agree that it's less than optimal for sure.
So you guys
Yeah.
are both. You guys both are too very. You're too nice and polite. So I'll just say flat out, Scam Citizen is bullshit. It is the worst form of tribalism. It is like all other sort of what do you call it, prejudices or whatever. It's it's based on ignorance and fed by pride. And so get over it and look at the project fairly and see that, I mean, it has many flaws. It is years away from being done. They admit that. They make you click a box that says that every time you log into the game. So this is not a situation of it's something they're trying to hide, but this is in no way a scam. You're seeing people on the PTU this week run around in fucking a Cloud City. They're running around hanging out with Lando Calrissian over a gas giant. That's not a thing that you get from a scam. That's a thing that you get from a lot of people working really hard, spending a fuck ton of money on a lot of tech to make brand new shit happen that's the world's never seen before. And yeah, so sorry. You guys both gave it a very polite answer, and I had to just come in there and stomp on it.
Well,
Uh,
it's an interesting thing too. Is that something that we have kind of elected to do? Um, so I was in PR for 2 years, player relations,
hmm,
and there was some negativity there, right? It was kind of part of my job
mm-hmm,
to track what was going on within the community and what the public sentiment was. I will say that in terms of the actual requests that I got, they were they were typically pretty positive, and they weren't negative or ugly, but you did get those from time to time. But something that speaking personally that I've kind of elected to do since leaving the project is that um, Witch and I both believe that it's unreasonable to call it a scam. We think that a lot of the negativity, I think it's starting to rain. I don't know if you can hear it, but a lot of the negativity that uh, is sort of slung at the project and is brought up is unwarranted and isn't productive.
hmm.
So we don't necessarily have the best grasp on what people are saying because honestly there was a point where we elected to kind of avoid that that type of you know non-constructive, non-valuable, just blatant kind of like you said prejudice feedback.
Mm.
It's
So
hard. I mean, like, like in development, at least internally on our end, heads down trying to work. I mean, I know like in player relations, they have to have a tougher skin, so they get used to it. But for some of like for me example, like that was my thing. It's like I love playing the game, and I want the public to see it for what it really is, and um and if I'm, heads down on crunch and I take a lunch break and I go and I pop on and I look at a YouTube video on Star Citizen, and then it's just a bunch of BS, it's I can't say anything about it,
mm.
and it's such a morale killer to go back in and you know work on this stuff and make it the best it can possibly be. So you still have that kind of stuff in your mind. So eventually, I just had to just be like, all right, I got to turn all this off. I can't look at it.
You can't
Um,
exist anymore in the world of Kotaku headlines where it's like, is
oh my
Star
god.
Citizen trying to murder your puppy? News at
Oh,
But
11. And it's
and
like,
it's
oh,
Kotaku, man, for yeah, dude, for the last like even Kotaku, even on like when I worked at Naughty Dog, when I worked at Activision, when I worked at Sony, Microsoft. I mean, they were just relentless. you know.
Maybe it's you.
So maybe it's me. Could have been, you know what? Maybe it is. It could be.
Kotaku does not like witchcraft.
Kotaku does not like.
In player relations, we got to the point where we would take Kotaku in our stride. You know,
Yeah.
it would be like a running joke where the next article would come out, and be like, oh, big surprise, they're dissing us again.
But I mean, it's
We
literally
got-
just the exact same bullshit clickbait of like all of the local news channels where it's like, is this secret killer going to murder you in your sleep? News at 11, and then you get there and they're like, hey, sometimes water heaters can have a gas leak and that would be bad, and it's like, okay, the clickbait did not match the story even remotely.
Well, the negative is provocative, right? It gets people to, for whatever reason, gets people to read and to log time on, your YouTube videos or your streams or whatever it is you're doing. So it's unfortunately it's kind of a side effect of the way we get our information now. But
Fair.
Anyway.
So let's talk to both of you about the nature of out-of-game ship purchasing, the pros and cons. So I'm talking about, just to be clear, we're not talking about the gray market. We're talking about specifically pledging for ships. I know that for people outside of the Star Citizen community, that can be a big sort of red flag, or big like, ooh, there's a knee-jerk feeling of like, this is wrong and I don't know exactly why, but it makes me uncomfortable. So I'd like you guys to address that a little.
Completely fair. Yeah, you want to go first?
Sure.
Sure.
I think. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, real quick. Yeah, like yeah. I mean, there are definitely some really expensive purchases for larger ships, and on my own budget, like there's like a fleet of ships that I had bought, and I guess I'd kind of gotten that kind of like that, oh man, I gotta have this ship, I gotta have this ship, I gotta have this ship, and I thought about it. I was like, when I first came in, my point here is that that you don't have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars or whatever, on a game like this. 45 bucks to get in. If you want to do, let's say if you're a player that just loves doing FPS combat, you're really not into flying that much, which is a phase I actually went through, and I had a blast with it. I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna have an Aurora, and I want to go and I want to just try FPS missions, earn the money to get my armor and my weapons and my equipment. Still have my little spaceship, so I could still do like smaller missions, and had a blast at it. And I realized that the thing is, like, for me, like, I'm never gonna be able to have one of the large I don't really need one of the larger ships, because I don't have like 20 people that I don't have like 20 buddies that I can crew up with, and we're gonna regularly train with this. But there are people out there that do that. The whole point of the bigger ships versus the smaller ships, that whole range, is so that there is something for everybody. And yeah, like my Aurora, I wouldn't be able to go up against, say, like a Hammerhead toe to toe, because if they're fully crewed, they'll tear me to shreds. But at the same time, I can get away from them. It's a different type of battle that I can pick.
Right on.
I think one of the main the main differences in terms of kind of people coming from Elite and the expectation when looking at Star Citizen is that I feel like Elite has a very it sort of leans. I know there is kind of a multi-crew aspect to it. Yeah, but it's
the
not
lightest.
I feel like it's not really taken advantage of,
Mm-hmm.
just based on my limited time in the game. And I think that's an important difference you need to note, is that in Star Citizen, 3.14 has kind of one of the most recent significant additions to multi-crew, is that crew members are going to be able to switch to different modes and scan or operate missiles alongside the pilot. And sort of looking more long term, crew members will function as, you know, landing teams or engineers or you know, all these different functions that are either partially in game or are planned. And so I think it's important to note that just because you don't own a ship doesn't mean that you won't be able to interact with it, right? Like there'll be a point where people will blast out in chat or even make a post and say, hey, I need crewmen, you know, and they'll be able to hop on and experience that. In terms of the pros and cons, a pro to pledging for a ship, spending real game currency, is that you know, you will have it when the game goes live. You'll have it after every wipe, and it's going to be something that is bound to your account and always there. The con obviously is the expenditure, but something else that might be, and this is a decision I had to make. You know, I started seeing different ships, right? Like, you know, oh god, the Kraken, right? The Drake Kraken, the aircraft carrier looking ship, right? I was thinking about it, going, man, how can I? Is this something I want to try and save up for, and purchase with my hard-earned dollars? And at some point, I made the determination. I said no. I think that one specifically, I want to earn in game, and I think that's a really it's a
Same here.
Yeah, it's a healthy decision to make, whether or not you have the disposable income, to say, you know what, this is going to be an in-game goal for me, or this is something I want to try and steal, or this is something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so
or salvage together.
or salvage, yep.
Yeah.
And so, you know, buying ships is great. It funds the project. It's cool to have stuff on your account and there, but it's not something that at this point I wouldn't say it's required. You know, when a ship is concepted, it has a sale. When a ship is released in game, the pattern lately has been, okay, anyone who owns it on their account, boom, you've got it. And then typically the next big patch 3 months later, it's available for purchase in the verse.
Yep.
So, and that is a pattern with every ship that they've released and is available in game, with the exception of a couple, like the Saber Raven, which was an Intel promotion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really a question of, hey, if you want to spend the money, go for it, right? But I don't feel like people should be averse to the idea of buying ships in game if they have the disposable income, and I feel like they shouldn't feel compelled to.
I think also too, there's a situation where for the projects, for the viewpoint of the project, while no one has to buy anything with cash other than you have to spend $45, everyone has to. That's buying the game. That's getting in. Other than that, you don't have to. But the fact that some very passionate community members are putting in money in, you know, 200 here and 300 there, and, you know, there's some Saudi baller whatnot dude who just threw in 10 grand to get whatever.
I've dealt with those people.
And like, here's the thing, what that is blocking, what that is allowing to happen, is not having to be beholden to EA or Activision or whoever to run your project, to not be a publicly traded company where you can't afford to have the balls to dream big and to try huge things because, well, the board won't approve it, this, that, and the other. Like, the board is the players.
Yeah. I think we have a bad habit of not speaking, or at least I have a bad habit of not necessarily speaking bigger picture. And so during the rest of this course of this interview, I'm going to try and widen the scope a little bit, right? And no, what you said is absolutely on the money, right? Like it is a driving economic force for the project, and it's what is allowing all of this to happen the way that it is.
It allows freedom of decision, Kai. Kai, you nailed, you know, right on the head. I'm trying to think of an example of of something, and I think being able to land on planets and having have that Armstrong moment is one of those key things. Because originally it was going to be we're just going to land at certain landing points, but
Mm.
with the funding and with the research, and as they had solved more pieces of the puzzle, they went, you know what, we have the funding for this, and we've solved these three things. This actually landing on planets, anywhere on a planet, we might actually be able to do that. Let's run it. They had the freedom to run a test, and once they figured out, holy crap, we can actually do this,
Yeah.
they made it a thing. But if
Yeah.
we didn't have the funding, that never would have happened. It would have been
There
all
was
smoke and mirrors.
there was old footage, 2014 or 2015, I think, of a preview of the canned landing zone, right, of a
Yeah.
constellation coming down the rails, and lands, and it was cool and it was pretty, but it can't touch what the way it's done now. And ship sales were a driving force, and
Yeah. I worked on that, and that
you
whole
did.
thing, yeah. And that was the thing, was like it was beautiful, but it was done in the same way that we do, everything else in AAA. It's like we used all existing assets, we got everything in, but because it was on rails, you're like, man, now we're only gonna see it from like this one camera angle, so then we're gonna
Yeah.
do this, but it's like, it's much more challenging and much more rewarding to be able to land almost anywhere on the planet. I mean, there is still a limit. Like Area
Yeah.
18 is a beast. You're not going to be able to land on like some random building and just go in and start buying snacks from, or hopping on a swimming pool.
Yeah.
There's going to be certain landing zone areas that you will go to,
Sure.
but on the surface, the unurbanized surface, you can land. There are other, you can land all over the place in that.
Oh, hell yeah.
In caves now.
And I
Yeah.
don't think that's an unreasonable thing to say, like, look, guys, there's only so much we're able to do. This is out of scope to be able to interact with anyone on a planet that's a city.
Well, I mean, not
Yeah.
only that, but you wouldn't want to. That would be a bad
No.
idea for space sim design. If you're doing a galaxy sim, you're going to have rules. Let me tell you something right now. If you happen to have a private helicopter, try just landing it on any building you feel like in New York and see how long you
Yeah.
live and
Yeah.
and 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 are able to walk around without handcuffs on. Like, yeah, no, of course. You can't just land on some dude's house unannounced. That's not how that works.
But
Yeah, good
Yeah.
point, actually. Yeah.
So,
and it would be a waste of resources also.
yeah, 100%. So, a large portion of my audience are elite players. Many of them now self-describe as elite refugees. What advice do you have for commanders who are just starting on their road to citizenship?
We love you guys. Ask for help and you'll get it. Like,
Well said.
if you if you if you get in game, uh, and have your chat window up, tap enter and say, "Hey, I'm new. I need some help." And people will. There's obviously still kind of less tasteful entities, right? There are kind of some
Yep.
buttholes still kind of that will
Ran
be
into
jerks.
one last night. Yeah.
Smiling
But
dog crew.
for that one guy, there's like, there's 10, 20 other
Yeah.
players that are
Yeah.
totally cool and willing to answer your questions and help
Yeah.
you out.
There
Oh,
are
yeah.
people that'll send you money, that'll say, "Hey, come crew with me on this ship," that are like, it's been a really great trend that I've noticed in the last couple of years of just, both in game on Reddit and in the Spectrum channels of new players saying, "Hey, I got in last night. I had a great time. Shout out to so and so for, showing me the ropes or giving me money to buy a ship or what have you."
Yeah.
So the community's really accepting and really protective of new players.
Beautiful.
And the other part of that too, for commanders, if they want to join, if they want to have something more organized, like they want to have like massive org ops and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's, I don't even know what the count is now, but I remember like in the first 4 hours, it was like something like 2,000 orgs created or 4,000 orgs created or something like that. There's a mountain of orgs out there that you can join. They're all different, and you'll have to find out which one fits your
Yeah.
your style of socializing and gameplay, but there's some really good ones that are
Yeah.
out there.
And like, yeah, keep an open mind and mess around with it until you get into a good groove, both in terms of
Yeah.
the way you play the game and the type of people you associate with. So there's, like Witch said, all kinds. There's heavy mill sim guys, there are hardcore dudes, there are people that get on and just like to kind of relax and chill and enjoy the beauty of the game.
Tessa's a great
Yeah.
example. She's all she does is mine in Prospector or Rock,
Hmm.
and that's just her whole thing. She's super laid back and just delightful to just.
She's a content creator.
Oh, it's super
Yeah,
fun mining in a rock.
yeah,
It's very, very
Yeah.
chill. It's very,
Tessa D.
yeah.
Um, the other thing too is that in terms of the controls, right? Flight will probably be a little more readily apparent to the elite community. I think some of the keyboard and mouse controls are a little bit different um, than the default on elite. The on foot controls they're pretty straightforward. But in terms of specific interactions, right? How do I interact with certain things? How do I get to where I'm going is another big one.
Hmm.
Use the map in game and use signs. The
Mm-hmm.
signs are there for a reason. They'll always, you got to find them and read them, but they'll always kind of point you in a certain direction. So,
But
So,
yeah, it is.
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, just to add to what what I was saying is that, yeah, I mean, we're definitely, it's two different games, and honestly, like I don't know anybody that would still pull for for Elite Dangerous to be able to write itself, but that's really up to the devs. The ball's in their court. But until then, and even after then, you guys are, the Star Citizen community as a whole would be more than happy to have you guys come in and
Oh yeah,
screw up and command ships. It'd be awesome.
I think looking at this sort of storm cloud that has been Elite Dangerous Odyssey, and looking for the silver lining, I don't think that the silver lining is, oh, now you can leave Elite and come to a better game, Star Citizen. I think the silver lining should be looked at more along the lines of, it gave you the impetus to go see a cool new thing.
yeah.
You should come play Star Citizen. You should go play No Man's Sky. You should also go back and keep playing Elite. Like, yes, they need to sort of get themselves fixed, but this isn't a matter of one should die and one should rule them all. It's better for the health of all three games if the community of space game players play and enjoy them all. Like, it doesn't, if it costs you something per month, if we're talking about WoW and it's like, okay, you got to pay $14 per month, or Final Fantasy 14, you got to pay your $16 a month. Okay, then I get the idea of saying I pick the one that's best for me and I invest my time in it. But
Yeah.
since none of these three games charge you a monthly fee, why would you not enjoy all three, back all three, support all three, and play what makes you happy on any given day?
Well, competition drives the industry.
Oh, hell yeah.
As it should.
Mhm.
And I think that it's really important to. There are also, they're not all identical games either. Like, I do feel there's a pretty distinct experience to be had from each of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, revisiting the nature of ship purchasing question through the lens of the elite refugee, whatever, citizens, what advice do you have on purchasing for new players? Like, me personally, I'm going to throw mine out there just to give you a ballpark of kind of what I'm talking about.
Okay.
I recommend to people I don't know, just buy the basic pack, don't go nuts. To people I know well enough that I don't feel embarrassed saying it, I tell them, yeah, you definitely want to spend the extra $25 and start off with an Avenger Titan. That's a really good start to the game. It's better at hauling than the Aurora. It's better at combat than the Mustang. It's a good all-around ship. It's got a bed. It's just, and it's sex on toast. It's just a great ship. So I say, like, hey, spend the extra $25, and if you feel bad about it, if you feel like you screwed up, let me know and call me an idiot to my face. But nobody's done it. Everyone that started with it said, I'm so glad I listened to you. That's a really good ship to start off with. What do you guys think?
I mean, I agree. I mean, we have our own we are Wiley and I have our own personal preferences on which starships we enjoy, but it really comes down to like personal taste, right?
Yeah.
Hands down, like the Avenger is definitely a step up. I really love the Cuddy Black.
Oh,
It's
so
just
good.
such a
Yeah.
that and the Cuddy Red, especially Cuddy Red definitely for FPS
Yeah.
combat because you got the spawn bed and everything. Wiley, what about you, man?
Yeah, the Cuddy Blacks, it's a little, just in terms of price, it's a little, maybe it's a step up from a starter.
Mm.
It's heavier.
I know you can, I think you can buy a game package with it still. But just for one guy, 1 to 2 guys, 1 to 3 guys, the Cuddy Black is one of the most versatile, capable ships in the game right now.
Nomad's good
It's
too, though, right?
the Nomad's great. I love
Mm.
the Nomad.
Yeah,
Um, but in terms of advice, I'd say first, don't spend money you don't have. Don't obviously don't feel like you have to be compelled to buy anything. But if you're looking, um, most of most of the ships in game right now are pretty widespread. Like it shouldn't be hard to find somebody and say, hey, can I check that out? Right?
Oh yeah.
Can I look at your Cuddy Black? Can I look at your Constellation Andromeda? Can I look at your Gladius? Right? And
yeah,
most, not everyone will say yes, but a lot of times people say, yeah, sure, man.
yeah,
Well,
Come
we
check it out
a
and
lot. Yeah,
shame,
get your hand. Go
shame,
ahead, sorry.
shameless self promotion. We have a channel in the Black Sky Legion Discord that is Black Sky Legion Ops in the Star Citizen room. So you go in there and you say, "I'm new. Can someone help me mine, or can someone explain to me this whole rock thing, or can someone spawn a Mercury Star Runner, or can someone spawn
Yeah.
a Connie? I want to see what it's like. I want to whatever." And someone, we got people in there that have just about everything. Somebody will be like, "Yep, yeah, hold on, I'll come get you. Where you at? You're at here. All right, I'll come get you. I'll bring a Mercury Star Runner. I'll throw a rock in that. We'll land over in Yella, or no, we'll land over in what do you call it? One of the Hurston moons. We'll land over there at one of the little mining facilities. We'll pick up a rock. We'll take you on a whatever, and I'll let you. You can drive, and I'll watch your screen and tell you, okay, like, oh yeah, feather it up, feather it down. Okay, now you see it. Yeah, but there's not just us. There's lots of people that will do that.
Yeah.
amazing, and that's exactly
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. What you're doing there. I mean, yeah, there's many examples of that where you'll have orgs that'll just help facilitate and just be like, hey, look, let's take you under our wing for a little bit, show you the ropes, and then you can move on or join up or whatever.
Yeah. But
But it's
I cut Wiley off in the middle of he was saying his thing about what he recommends people do purchasing wise. So I want to
yeah, sorry, man.
hear your thing.
Yeah, I mean, basically the crux of it is just try and get your hands on it in game. If it's an in-game ship, check it out, see if you like it, and understand that everything's still in flux a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? So a lot of stuff, a lot of things are coming. I think one of the biggest changes is physicalized components and physicalized damage. So ships aren't going to have just a hard health pool, right? They'll actually the components will start shutting down when they take too much damage,
Mm.
right? And so instead of just flat out blowing up, right, you'll shut down, you'll be disabled. Explosions will still happen, right, if the right parts get hit. But keep in mind that as the game continues to evolve, so will your ships. But the way that they function in the grand context should remain the same.
Mm.
And the second part of that is that there are certain periods throughout the year where ships are either discounted, they're more readily available, they're easier to get, so you can't buy everything on the pledge store all year round. During the anniversary sale it's either October or November most years. Everything, well, not everything, but 95% of the ships are available during that time. So don't feel like you have to get in a rush. There's time to get what you want, time to get what you need, and sometimes waiting for a little bit is is the best way to do that. So
Right on.
Agreed.
And in the meantime, every ship in the game is available from the time that you can buy it and fly it. 3 months later, you can get it with the iron price. So if you're like, hey, I just don't want to pledge. I want to. Okay, you don't have to. You pay your 45 and you're in and you're good.
Yep.
But if you get to the point where you're like, okay, now I want to. Now I've been around for a year. I've been around for 2 years. You know what? They put out, 8 patches here. I like them. It's going well. I want to support this project. I'm gonna put in $200, $300, and I'm gonna get myself that whatever that I always wanted. That C2. I'm gonna get myself that whatever. Okay, then you can do that and do that feeling good, knowing that your pledge went to helping the project keep going. But don't spend money. Well, I mean, you do what you want. It's your money. But my advice would be don't spend money because you have to have the ship. Spend money because you want to pledge the project. But, I mean, if you're happy with your purchases, I'm not your dad. You do what you want. All right. So that takes us to the interview that you guys did with Board Gamer. Wiley, you had a great comment where you were like, people keep telling you, hey, tell Chris Roberts this. And you're like, man, I don't have a magic phone that rings on Chris Roberts' desk.
Yeah.
If you did, let's play around in the what if for a minute. If you did, and you had a magical, hey, you had a lunch date with Chris Roberts where he just pulled you out of the crowd and said, hey, Wiley, I want to have lunch with you. We're going to sit down and have burgers, and you're going to tell me your thoughts. What good, bad, whatever. What you had 10 minutes to tell him whatever. What would you say?
What I want to do in Star Citizen, what I'm really genuinely looking forward to is exploring. And my hope would be, and I feel like the company is doing this, but I would ask him, I'd say, please give us stuff that we don't see coming. Give us stuff that's unexpected, right? Not everything needs to be in the patch notes, Like, imagine you're out flying and scanning. You land on a rock, or an asteroid or a small moon and take off, and you're out cruising some more. And now there's something on your ship, right? A xenomorph or something. And you had no idea that it was even in the game or it was in the patch notes. There's not no record of it, but it's those kind of experiences where the mystery, I think, really for exploration especially, really is important. And I feel like they're doing that. There are some locations in the game that were never mentioned or shown that people have yet to find. Like, I think the one image I'm really thinking of is there's like and these are for the most part they've been like Easter eggs, right? There's like a cave that's full of plushies somewhere.
Yeah, that was so good.
Yeah, that nobody's found yet, as far as I know.
The video, I saw the video when they were talking about the cave design, and they just showed a second of it, and it was all of the little penguin guys lined up. Yeah.
Yep. It's like someone is going to find that somewhere eventually, right?
So good.
Benny Hinge is another good example.
Yeah.
But I want there to be experiences too. Enemies, anomalies and phenomena, interesting kind of creepy stuff. And I do feel like they're doing that. At this point, I would have no way of knowing for sure, but that is what I'm looking forward to most in the game. What I want and what I would hope and expect, and what I would say to Chris.
Wiley, you know what you just did? You just sold me on the idea of C2 and a Tonk together. Because now I don't want to land on any planet other than I'm rolling off the front of the ramp in my Tonk. And because I'm not bumping into a xenomorph out there by the campfire. Hell no. Witchcraft.
Down and clear. We're down and clear.
Yeah. Witchcraft, same question. You get your magical lunch with Chris Roberts. You're not doing hamburgers. He wanted filet mignon that day. You're doing filet mignon and beer. You got your 10 minutes with him. What are you pitching?
Oh, darn it, Wiley, you said this. Yeah, I guess mine was twofold, which was, I was gonna say initially, it's like, I'd had my first, 10 minutes with him, which was that, that crucial, that crucial flag about just, it's like, hey man, just letting you know that this is gonna be a problem. This is a long term, for metrics.
Yeah, yeah.
He listened to me. He listened and acted on it, and I'd love to thank him for that. But yeah, the other part too is same thing that Wiley said, which is, just, you know, um, to be able to have just these hidden surprises in the verse,
Mm.
um, would be, yeah, it would be phenomenal because it would really add to the, unknown. Like, oh, man, what am I going to run into today?
Mm.
You're already getting that now in the game, but yeah, to have additional content that's hidden, and it's very difficult because there are, there's data siphoners that try really hard to find things, and they're really good at finding secrets before CIG can unveil them, unfortunately.
Mm.
But they're CIG is definitely is getting better at hiding stuff.
See,
Um,
I'm going to be that guy that doesn't have to worry about the chest bursters because I'm going around in a tonk. But I'm going to get some blue goo on my treads, and next thing you know, I've got Josephus Miller in my head reaching out 1,000 times a
Yeah.
second.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
So, highlights and lowlights of your time at CIG. Times that were like you were the most proud and most like enthused, and then the times where you were just absolutely discouraged. And I'm sure that they're all going to be tied to Kotaku or Forbes
Mm,
articles.
yeah. Um, Wiley, you want to go first?
Yeah, I can go first. So
Go for it.
um, the highlights when I look back at the project and my time there, um, there are two main things I think about that I really legitimately enjoyed, and it's the big parts of the job that I miss. The first one is just the people that I worked with in the Austin studio.
Mm.
So the player relations team, platform team, um, you know, it was a very tight knit group. I've never really had um, a work experience quite like that in terms of the people that I interacted with. Um, I miss those guys. I still talk to them a lot, but just kind of being in there every day and fighting the same fight with the same people
Mm.
was really rewarding and special. The second thing was during I think the last year and a half I was there. I moved desks and ended up sitting next to Witch. Um,
Yay!
yeah, sat next to Witch. Behind me, I had my PR team, and then on the other side, I had designers. So, um, listening to those guys and the thought processes that they went through um, was really, really rewarding because and I think I was talking to somebody about this the other day. Um,
Mhm.
but or Witch rather, excuse me. But the way that they thought was the uh, the way that they interacted and kind of the thought process they went to was a combination of technical critical thinking and creative thinking. So what they had to try and do is they were creating systems and methods of interaction in the game, and base level stuff all the way down to tools, all the way down to levels and different things, where they were trying to solve existing problems and cultivate a certain experience, and at the same time trying to do it in a way that prevented future problems.
Mm.
So they're making something that is future proofed, and the way they did that and just listening to their methodology for that was extremely rewarding.
Mm.
Really interesting stuff.
And
Okay.
humbling. I felt really dumb after listening to them.
Same here. But sort of the low light of my time there, um, and a lot of people commented on Board's video. Not a lot. A couple of people commented, "Well, why aren't they still working there?"
Mm.
Um, I left the company due to personal reasons. I had actually some health stuff come up, and some other factors that it kind of made it my time to move on to other things. And it's
Yeah.
corny, but leaving and kind of that period was kind of my low light there. But uh, the company as an entity was always more than fair, was always great to me, and the people that I worked with were always great.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Which you're up.
I would say, yeah. I mean, um, there was a bunch of high points, but I think probably, well, yeah, my favorite one was the Citizen Con in Austin,
Oh
Texas.
yeah, I
Mm.
forgot
That,
about that.
I mean, it was like I actually got to work with Wiley on some production stuff. He was able to help us with like some tactical consulting. He was a retired um, instructor.
Okay.
But yeah, I went through and like it was just like um, it was a Herculean amount of work. It was
Mm.
one cinematic, game assets, two mission givers, metrics for something else. I think three or four metrics for something else. Um, I think it was the first rough iteration of the bartender, and then we had to put on a motion capture demo live for the fans to to walk through the process, and that ran for the whole week,
Mm.
and then or excuse me, a couple of days, and then also I was assisting because I worked on the deck crew sequence for Squadron 42, um, and for PU. Had to work with the demo team that was creating the 3D models of the Kraken, and so I was able to help them, just make sure that personnel were generally in the correct spots and things like that. Anyways, just it all came together, and it it, it ended up way better than I thought it was going to be, and it was just definitely a high point for me, and I really
Yeah.
just enjoyed working with the team.
Beautiful.
Big Hill. The low point for me was definitely the day when I had to go,
Mm.
and that was because day one, when I got to Austin, uh, the um, well, maybe it was later actually, but the UK base is like Austin had basically gotten rid of their um, uh, tax incentives for
Mhm.
entertainment. They gutted it.
Mm.
Um, and at the same time, the UK said, "Well, we're gonna add a whole bunch of tax benefits for companies to move here." So CR is like, "Well, we're running this. We've got to make a smarter decision here." So um, the reason why I left um, was because my job, the all art was being outsourced to the UK. It had to,
Yeah.
and my job was there. I talked to Aaron Robinson about it personally, and he was like, "There's a job waiting here for you. You ever change your mind, let me know." But I couldn't swing it because I got two
Emily.
kids at school here, and I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
family, and so I just that one, man, that one really hurt for me.
Plus, as
Um,
someone who's been stationed in the UK before, let me tell you, you can't give up Boston barbecue for the UK. You just can't.
I'm sorry, you can't. No, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
Uh,
No Terry Blacks.
yeah.
Oh, Blacks is so good.
Yeah,
The That was the other thing Witch touched on too, is that the CitizenCon in Austin was a ton of a ton of work for everybody, but
Mhm.
seeing it come to fruition was really rewarding, and the whole company spooled up and had some sort of interaction with work on CitizenCon. And so every year when they showed a keynote, we all felt like it was our victory too, as individuals, right, and as a company.
Mm,
Mm.
absolutely. And that's another thing. Actually, you make a good point. Every time we've had a milestone from day one. When I got in there, I was thinking about like the whole thing with like, is this a scam? There was a list of like, here are the milestones that we're going to have to cover if we're going to be able to pull this thing off, and there may be more milestones that will emerge
Yeah.
as we evolve. And I think the number came to like, I think it was like, in my mind it was like 7 or 6 major milestones to make this an actual working game. Every single one of them was like, it's like a SpaceX launch, just like, oh, please don't blow up, please don't blow up,
Yeah.
and and now we're at the last few hurdles.
Mm.
The last few technological hurdles are the ones that will actually um, allow. I mean, there's content that that I've tons of content I've created in the game that won't that can't see the light of day or work properly until that stuff goes
Yeah.
online.
Or is tied to certain features, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yes, definitely.
So,
Yeah.
what aspects of the project not yet realized but on the map are you most excited by?
Man, these are some great questions.
Yeah.
Uh, uh,
I'm big into exploration.
Mm.
And so the saying that, with that in mind, the stuff involving server meshing and iCache um, they're extremely important.
Mhm.
They're they're needed for everything. And so I think to give that as an answer, right, that's kind of an obvious gimme, right? Like, we got to have server meshing and iCache because it ties to everything else.
Mm.
So those are exciting. Short term, I'm really excited to see what the player habs and player hangers look like, and how
Oh,
those get
hell yeah.
implemented.
The
Yeah,
3.17 they just got added? Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
mm,
yeah. The ability to store stuff in there and stack stuff, and whatever they're going to have.
And decorate.
That's and decorate. That's going to be amazing. Um, Longer term, ship physicalized, ship components, physicalized damage
Mm.
are my two big ones. Like, so Witch and I went out and did some flying in a Carrack the other day, right?
oh,
And
yeah.
that's a big boat with big guns, and the idea of having that take damage and not just land and
There's the damage right there.
yeah, there you
Yeah.
go, yeah, not just land
Nature
and
damage.
be auto repaired, but to actually be able to go up open panels in the field and make determinations about what repairs you're able to do, what you're not able to do. And it's the next biggest thing to make the ships feel alive and integrated into the universe, right? Is having these things you can go pull out and work on and examine. And that ties into everything. It ties into exploration, but the idea of being able to do that when you're way out in the middle of Pyro by yourself, or wherever, is extremely exciting to me.
Right on. Which?
Also,
Oh, go ahead.
go ahead.
No,
Oh,
no.
sorry. Just exploration gameplay in general. The
Mm.
quantum beacons
Mm-hmm.
too, and kind of that extension onto the scanning gameplay that's coming
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah. Which?
Um, Sorry, there's been a couple of things that have already happened that I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like first time I set foot on, I think it was it Sealand? Yeah, Sealand at night.
Mm.
And to look up and to see Crusader was mind blowing. To land with a fully, with a with a geared up, landed a drop ship with a platoon
Mm-hmm.
of Marines or pirates, and do a hot drop, and everybody runs out and goes and like clears the building. Already had that moment. The three things I'm looking forward to is on the exploration front, voids, alien life,
Mm-hmm.
small, primitive, sentient. That's going to bring so much to the verse, and it's going to bring wonder, it's going to bring danger. It's going to be, that I think that's going to be amazing. Yeah, I'm really excited for being able to do ship repairs.
Mm.
Also, I mean, yeah, just to be able to keep a ship afloat. I mean, you feel like that kind of stuff in games like Pulsar, Lost Colony,
Mhm.
Yeah.
or Sea of Thieves, where
Yeah.
you can, smack in that 2x4, to
Over the hole. Yeah.
holes. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, what Wiley mentioned just earlier was like it was that's a 5 or 6 man crew for a Carrack, and it was just the two of us, and we were like, man, we get any holes in this, man.
Yeah.
Like, we're screwed, but we pulled it off, and it was just like and then this is sound really dumb because I already did this, and I'm gonna do it many more times, but the test firing I'm gonna say it once in here, test firing a Tonk from the open hangar doors from a C2
Oh
Mm.
was
yeah.
the most gratifying, hilarious thing I've ever done with a buddy. It's if you haven't done it, it's
Yeah.
kind of dumb, but I'm liking it. Yeah,
We
Yeah.
were we
it's
were we did dog
flamethrower.
fighting
We
with
did a
it.
flamethrower
Yeah,
mission,
we
which
did.
usually get killed in, and it was like,
It was overpowered.
yeah, it was like 1-2 shot killing prospectors, and every time we are like, "Ah, God," yeah. So, and
Good
you know
stuff.
what? The last one is to be able to take our first steps into another system.
Mm. Coming
Take
soon. So
Pyro.
soon.
coming soon, man. I
Pyro,
know.
yes, must. Well, I want to go to there. I want
Yeah.
Pyro. I want Nyx. I want Odin. Give it to me.
Will you get
Slapping
to
my
the Paradise
veins.
Planet? Will you get to the Paradise Planet where there's, the beaches and oceans?
Mm.
That's the last you guys will see me. I'm just gonna. That's where I
We'll be
disembark, and that's it. I'm retired.
we'll
That's
be
that to me.
going through our. Go
It
ahead.
that invokes the all the time where whenever they had an episode of Star Trek where they needed to just throw everybody in bikinis or whatever, it's like we're going to
Yeah.
Ryza.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
great. It's great.
Yeah, right. That's what Horizon, man.
Yeah.
That's why I just
All
close the account.
all
Forget the
time
account.
all time leaderboards. Water skiing. Witchcraft.
There you
Number
go.
one spot.
There you go.
Someday,
So when
someday.
when you were talking earlier and you kept saying like exploration, I was like, okay, this next question, I know the answer. I'm going to hear Carrack from Wiley, but okay, so what like what ships do you guys own, and what aspect of the game currently in the alpha that exists now are you most enjoying?
Oh my
I own
gosh.
a I own a bunch of ships. Um, I've got sort of the well. I'll list my favorites. Okay. I've got a Carrack. I've got a F7C-M Heartseeker.
Mm.
I'm a big fan of nose art. Um, I've got a Prospector
Mm-hmm.
that is fantastic. I've got a Star Runner that is also extremely well rounded, and just the little corridors underneath. I was taking a new player through and ducked into one of those and disappeared, and he caught me and went, "Oh my god, this is amazing!" But um, Carrack is hands down my favorite ship. It's been my favorite ship for years. It's just in terms of what I want to do and kind of the kind of experience I want to have. It's got everything for just you just grab, 5 or 6 of your buddies. You just go. just point it in a direction and go see what's there.
I'm super jelly. That is, I have every other ship that you mentioned except for the Carrack, and that the Carrack to me is Firefly. It like to me it evokes that it's like this is Mal and the crew just heading out into the black.
Yep, that's exactly what it is.
Oh,
And it's the first ship that's supposed to have every aspect of gameplay in Star Citizen.
yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not the only.
What I enjoy most. Oh man. So Witch and I, excuse me, will we have I don't know if it's a unique play style, but what we decide to do kind of jumps around night to night. Sometimes we'll go out mining, sometimes we'll go, we'll say, okay, um, what do we want to try and pull off, right? And so like the C2 with the Tonk is an example, right? We're like, let's do this goofy thing and see if we can make it work. Um, the I don't do a ton of trading, although with kind of the cargo reworks and refactors coming, I think I'm going to try that some more. I really enjoy mining. Um, we've been doing some bounty hunting stuff. I think kind of my favorite aspect though of the game period is just getting in and experiencing it as a whole. Going to new places, trying to find stuff I've never seen before. Obviously exploration is my what I'm most excited for, but that's not in game necessarily as a mechanic right now. But I do try and kind of do that in its own way. I also, and I'm not sure, I'm sure I'm not in the minority here, but I actually really legitimately enjoy the prison gameplay. I think it turned out really well and is such a cool addition to the game. Um, so yeah, I don't know that that is an answer, but it's the best one I can give.
I would, I would say
sorry.
this. It's okay, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say the same thing, man. I really liked. I really like mining just because it's calming, unless you're hauling quantanium,
Yeah.
But mining, exploration. But I love doing squad-based or fleet-based ship combat or FPS interdiction. FPS interdiction is probably hands down my favorite thing. But as far as like what ships I have, I've got is it ships that I want to have or is this ships I have?
Either or, go for it.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I think that the ships that I want to have primarily, I think the things that I want to get are logistical ships,
Okay.
like mining and hauling and refining and things like that.
Mm.
I have them all. I have a M2. I've got a Prospector. I have a Carrack as well. And one ship that I would love to get is the Perseus because I think it's small enough to probably be able to manage with a small team.
Mm.
And then in game, again, I'd love to be able to earn a Kraken in game. But yeah, it's and then I think the rest of my fleet is I have like I have a an F7C, I have an F7A, which is well, I've got the skin for it, and then I've got a Nova tank and all the other like little bitty ships.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it used to be a much bigger fleet, and then I realized I was like, you know what, I need to pare this down because I want to earn stuff in game. I want to have things to work forward
Hell
towards.
yeah.
And the first time I bought something in game, I was like, you know what, this is great. And I felt like I had the option, like the freedom, like a stress-free option to go, okay, you know what, I can just keep that. I can sit there. But if I'm like, oh, I love this Perseus. I'm sorry, Pisces. I'm buying this. It's too useful. I use it all the time. I'm gonna throw the money in for it.
Okay. Let me
You
ask
know.
you guys, changing the subject just a little bit. Let me ask you your thoughts on the sort of where we're at this particular moment in the genre. So you've got basically No Man's Sky, who's just chugging along, putting out fantastic little stuff on their scale and their little way, but like just pure goodness. You've got Star Citizen that is, I think, coming out of a bit of a slow stretch. I think there was a certain amount of maybe frustration in the 3.12, 3.11, 3.12, 3.13. 3.14 is like it's okay, like, oh, the engine is chugging along again, and 3.15 looks like, oh man, next gear. And so like I feel like the momentum is picking up, and people that were, I think, 6 months ago kind of a little more along the lines of like it's going too slow, or now kind of like, okay, I can deal with this. And then you've got sort of Elite that's like a dumpster fire right now, and then you've got these projects on the horizon like Starfield or whatever, where they're big question marks that everybody's going like, oh, what's going to happen with this? Like, where do you guys sort of see the genre, the sort of space sim area right now? How do you see it, and what are you looking forward to?
Well, within the context of the impact that COVID had
Mm-hmm.
on the industry as a whole, I'm actually pretty pleasantly surprised with the way everything has continued. Um, and to be honest, I have faith in CIG, and those guys all work hard and I love what they do. But I was really impressed that they were able to get out as much as they did with the pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, and I think just the industry as a whole is in a really good place. I feel like space games kind of uh, for years kind of fell out of the public's eye and imagination, and I feel like uh, the continual development and growth of that genre also mirrors public interest in what's going on in the real world with SpaceX and Virgin and Boeing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I'm optimistic. I said before, I think competition uh, is really excellent for the industry, and I don't necessarily see all of these projects as directly competing. I know that the classic kind of Elite versus Star Citizen is um, was a debate for a long time, but a game like Starfield, um, I'm excited for. I think it'll be its own thing. It's definitely has a really cool kind of uh, uh, near future space exploration aesthetic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and Yeah, just in general, I'm optimistic. The more the merrier. I say I love space games. I love RPGs, and I think it's going to be great.
Beautiful. Which?
Yeah, I agree with what everything Wiley said. I mean, it's I think that if I break it down to a piece of the pie, right? You've got MMO, you've got your AAA single player story, like Last of Us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, then you've got indie. You have like all these different genres. I mean, there's enough room for everyone to enjoy something. As a consumer, this is a really good time because you can kind of pick and choose and go, man, I like this, but I'm really into this kind of thing. Oh crap, they have something like this. And um, yeah, I think there's definitely enough room for I guess the four big MMOs to all coexist. Mainly because the styles are different enough,
Mm.
you know, that it feels, like No Man's Sky doesn't feel like Elite Dangerous, and Elite Dangerous doesn't feel like Star Citizen, and so on and so on. If you had two that were really, really close to each other, then you're kind of like, and as a consumer, it's the buy, well, there's the buy the best, forget the rest. But, they're also going to go, nah, I'm already playing Call of Duty. If
Yeah.
there's something that's really close to that, you'll get that, like, I don't have the energy to level up in two things. I'm gonna, I'll level up in it if it's different enough. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
And whereas, like I said, I felt like 3.14 is definitely kicking it up into the next gear from 3.12 and 3.13. I feel like 3.15 to 3.17 with, first off, 3.15 is just massive with the stuff that's been scheduled on it, period, already. And, it's the one that's coming with CitizenCon ish, whatever. I mean, not tied directly, but wink, wink. And then the stuff that they've just announced with 3.17 with the physicalized, the hangars and all, like, I read out a whole list of stuff with planets with habs and AI habs and all of the different things. Like, I feel like they're kicking it up into fifth gear. uh what's sort of what are you excited to foresee, or what do you foresee for the next, say, year in Star Citizen?
Ah,
I would say that
damn it.
okay, yeah,
Which? Sorry.
it's okay. Strike that from the right
Yeah,
now.
strike that right here.
Yeah,
It's like I know the guy or something.
dude, it's the same here, man. It's healing gameplay, and I would say healing and salvage. Um, salvage actually isn't until, let me look here.
You mean
Sorry,
tier 0 salvage?
tier zero
Yeah.
salvage, which I think tier zero is for 316. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
medical gameplay I think is going to be really big, and personal inventory personal inventory is going to be huge, because man, being able to, like, bring on ammunition, uh,
Mm-hmm.
throw it in a box and bring it onto a ship, um, medicine, food, drink,
Yeah.
water. I mean, that just adds to the whole, like, oh man, we're gonna go on this, especially if you're going to, like, if you're gonna be out for a long time, or if you're traveling across, or man, if you do that big jump to Pyro. I mean, I don't know if you've seen the size of Pyro, but holy smokes, yeah, I just think that, like, being able to store supplies, and really giving it some serious thought,
Mm-hmm.
um, is gonna, and putting care into it is gonna be, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun.
And I mean, that's why refueling, that whole loop needed to be added in for
Ooh,
Pyro.
ooh, refueling,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
refueling, refining. I mean,
Mm-hmm. Lots of
um,
logistics open up and really are going to shine with that, I think.
there's players I've talked to that, that are super excited for hacking tech.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not a hacker, but it's a gameplay aspect, and it's, and that's the thing, the thing obviously that, that is, Star Citizen is trying to have built in now that I've started to get the core systems in, is more gameplay, and more of that'll come online as pillars are completed,
Mm.
and it has been, it's been slow, but yeah, I think this, like, 315, 316, and 317, we're going to start to see things that we've been waiting for years for
Mm.
to come online, and yeah, I mean, I'll definitely be there, you know, testing it,
Right
and
on.
with everybody else.
Wiley?
So, yeah, again, which kind of he hit it on the head, right? Like, you've got all these they're not they're not small features, right? They take a lot of work, but they are uh, not necessarily connected. But when you start taking them as a whole, right, and looking at the game experience and the way all these things together are going to start
Mm-hmm.
changing it, right? Especially with medical, ship repair, and personal inventory. the way people think about the game is going to change, in that you'll have to be kind of actively planning for what you're going to do, right, and what kind of encounter you're going to have, and how to be successful with the mission that you pick. That, in conjunction with the server meshing, and I keep wanting to say iCache,
Entity
but
graph.
entity graph,
Mhm.
man.
I'm never
Yeah, I'm never gonna. It's gonna be iCache for me
Entity
forever.
Oh
graph.
yeah.
But with those two things coming, which I don't think it's unreasonable to say that they'll be in within the next year. Several months ago they said by the end of 2021. Now it's looking more like middle of 2022. Um, with those things coming in, when they first get plugged in, it's not going to be night and day right off the bat, right? But once they have them in and working, all these little things will start to be connected to them. And things like you'll have little tiny bugs and quality of life stuff that'll start to really shine through and become improved. Even little things like NPCs standing on top of chairs, right? That's the kind of thing it'll fix. AI reaction time will go way up. So if you've ever done a bunker mission FPS on a server that's really healthy and has low ping, there's a video out there somewhere of a guy doing it. And the AI, they're supposed to be security personnel. They are lethal, man.
Mm.
They're mean. They react instantly to the player. They flank, and I'm excited for it because there's so much work that has been done, especially on the AI side,
Mm.
that increases your sense of immersion instead of kind of pulling you out of it, right? And all that work will shine through when server meshing and the entity graph um, make it into the game.
And
Those
I,
two
I
things.
gotta I gotta say, for all of our trucker brothers out there, it also means that you won't crash in your caterpillar full of hadnite. All of the
Yep.
stuff goes away.
Yep.
Oh man.
Oh, those our
There's
our our long haul
Ah,
boys. Yeah.
yeah, because I
yeah,
mean, you're
shipping.
like you're like no more standing on tables, and the truckers are there like, just give me my hadnite back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I
But
mean that shipping gameplay is, it's coming back, but it won't be 100% until they can make sure that you
yeah.
don't lose it to like a server crash
Yeah.
Well,
or
that's the thing too, though, is that like cargo is getting a refactor also,
Mm-hmm.
and so again, it's these features which by themselves are great, together are great, but together with the entity graph and server meshing, it's just going to be, once all these things come online, if you took the game today and look at it a year from today or a year and a half from today, I think it's going to be night and day. It's going to be feel like a much more holistic, immersive, complete experience.
It's one of those things where the combined what is it? The combined product is greater than the sum of its parts.
Yep,
Yeah.
yes.
that's
Yeah.
absolutely
And
right.
I mean, we could, excuse the expression, blow sunshine up your ass, but I mean, like for being Wiley, and oh, I'm sorry, I'm saying like for fans too that played the game, like veterans
Mm-hmm.
can look back at earlier patches. God, remember that? Remember when the friend system was a nightmare?
Oh
Remember when
man.
this? It's like,
Oh,
and
the one that I always love is, remember when it was just hangers?
remember when it was,
Yep.
yeah, remember when it was just
Yep.
hangers and. But it's like, yeah, I mean, it used to, I remember like the first time, we'd sat in a hangar for what, over a year. And then
Yep.
during that CitizenCon, Chris Roberts had that demo where the hangar doors opened up to open space. And I was just
Mm,
like, oh my God.
Yep.
yeah.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
When's
Oh
that
yeah.
happening?
That was.
Before
Oh, go ahead.
when I got hired, it was right before 3.0 dropped, and that was them getting, and it was just a moon. It was just Daymar, you know, and getting that was felt huge, right? And
Mm.
Yeah,
it's continued to grow, and I think it is helpful to kind of
yeah.
try and retain some perspective in terms of where we've come from when you're trying to think about where we're going.
Yeah, it
So
took like, Daymar terraforming on Daymar to get to be able to procedurally create it and the atmosphere, and to be able to sculpt everything took months. It took almost a year or more to basically create the tools and to be able to create that. And now, if they have to create another rocky planet like that with the tools that they have and the procedural generation, um, it it takes a couple of weeks. You know, give or take. I'm not exactly sure where it's at now, but
Sure,
that's
sure.
my word. That's a Dev's word, not mine. But
And
it's
there's another team dedicated to that now.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's like
With Turbulent.
They're killing it with the stuff that they have. The hospital stuff that they cranked out. They hit like 3 different things on this latest patch update where it's like, oh, those guys are killing it.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
We needed that so badly, just to have a dedicated team that doesn't have to get pulled off to work on something else. They could just work on that, and that's what this, you get the biggest bang for your buck that way.
So let me ask you both. What's the biggest misconceptions that you think people have about either Star Citizen or Squadron 42? Either or, both.
So the one I encounter most is, and this is pretty unanimous, both in the time I was there, and since I've left the company, is why do they release ships when there's still bugs in the game? And to a layperson, that's not an unreasonable question, but I think that if we're thinking about the way games are made, right, the short answer is that, there's no, it's not like you've got a team of people that know everything they need. Each individual knows everything they need to make a game start to finish, right? No, it's people specialize, right?
Yep.
And it's smart if one team gets a hitch and gets a problem, that your other people in your team continue to work and to continue to add value to your project. So guys who make ships are not the same people that fix bugs. There's some
Also,
overlap. There's some overlap there, but go ahead. Sorry.
Also, I was going to guess, as somebody from outside the project, that the answer might be because, hey, genius, those ships make money, and the money pays the salary of the guys that fix the bugs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to keep them. You got to keep them working or let them go,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And why? Do you not want more ships? Like it doesn't, making ships doesn't slow down bug fixes. The other answer to something like that too is that a lot of bugs, so some bugs will be not ignored, but the decision will be made to not devote resources to fixing that problem because the loop, right, or the system that it's a part of is fixing to be replaced with something better, and it's going to go away anyway.
Yeah, picking your battles.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Okay.
that's I think most of the misconceptions about the project are misconceptions about the way game development is done as a whole.
Yeah. Well, also think about scale too. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 724 employees now working on Star Citizen. Every single one of them are, either their heads down and working. There's obviously now a larger team to test, but it's not hundreds of testers. And the biggest asset that we have to making sure that it runs smoothly is to say, hey, listen, we're going to release this in waves, and we're gonna bring in a select few to come in and test and see if we can iron out as many of the bugs as possible, and so on and so on and so on. But if they just went and said, okay, we're hitting prime time, boom, and it all goes out and it doesn't work,
That would be elite. Oops, sorry.
disastrous. It will.
Oh.
It'll be,
no.
Do you remember a game a long time ago before 9/11 happened? It was called World War II Online. Anybody
Yeah.
remember that?
Yep.
Yeah.
My uncle and
And
cousin played it.
Huh.
you know, super top secret, and it came out, and the servers didn't work. And you know, the big thing on the newspaper is World War II Online falls down, it goes boom. It was patch fixed. Lots of people played it and loved it, but because of that big fall and not being able to test it early on with a larger group,
Mm.
um, it never recovered. And it's the same thing for for Cyberpunk, which is
Yeah.
not a massive multiplayer game, but
Yeah.
it's like, you know,
I've
this
actually,
game.
it's funny. I've actually heard from some people. I know one weirdo, uh, uh, yeah, who's a buddy of mine who plays Fallout 76, and he says it's actually halfway decent now, but nobody knows it because no one ever goes back. You only get one
Yeah.
chance to make that first impression.
Well, that's
It
what
is.
happened with No Man's Sky too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
big issue with it, and
Yep.
I am really impressed by that company's ability to
Yeah.
make it what it is today. But it took them years.
Yeah. But with like
Um,
24 people, man, they just
yeah,
cranked it out over
yeah,
time.
Yeah.
they got it done. Um,
I yeah.
the
I
other,
really
the other,
wish that I hadn't gone with Sony.
Yeah.
I think if they
yeah,
crowdfunded it, it would have, you know, it would have been a better.
I think Sean feels the same way.
yeah. The other
Sorry, lad.
misconception I think is that we say early access, we
Mm.
say alpha, but there is no alpha or early access like Star Citizen. Most of
Hmm.
the time, if you get early access to a AAA game, it's already pretty much done.
Yeah, that's just a gimmick.
And they're getting,
Yeah.
maybe I imagine there's some honest feedback that they get right,
Hmm.
and some testing that goes on, right, with server load and things like that. But most of the time, when a game is even announced, it's almost done.
Hmm.
Um, and Star Citizen is such a unique project, and it's been fascinating to watch because it really has been an experiment in game development where you've got this open development model that is they have to be really selective about what they show,
Mm.
um, because they need the ability to retain decision making, right?
Mm.
And that's what the project was sold on. It wasn't
Yeah.
sold as, hey, this is a crowdfunded project where everybody's going to get to have their say and you're going to vote on how the game is made. No, it was sold on, this is Chris Roberts. He knows how to make the kind of games that you love. This
Hmm.
is his vision.
Hmm.
Um, and so I think, yeah, that's my thought.
Yeah,
Me,
I
I
dig it.
think, like, like, we're talking about the Hercules as an example.
Yeah.
We didn't make the key decisions on it, um, as fans, but having access to it earlier gave us a chance to get behind the controls, run it through its paces, and give feedback on it. And uh, there's two things I really liked about it. When the Hercules first came out, and I test flew it, my first thought was, man, they took all of the past wisdom and feedback from fans
Mm.
and from dev experiences, and they tuned it, and it felt right, at least in my opinion.
Mm.
And then when I tried to land it, I remember when you landed a little hot, it would just chin scrape, right? And I
Hmm.
was like, man, that keeps happening. That's the only thing I don't like about it. So I went, and there were several other people that gave feedback on this, but I gave, in my opinion, I gave feedback, and I was like, here's what's happening, and maybe here's like 3 or 4 things. I gave constructive feedback, like, here's like 3 or 4 things that maybe you could do on the dev side that might fix it. And I gave a disclaimer, like, you probably already know what's going on, but in case you don't,
Mm.
here's what I'm seeing. And because of the aesthetic design of the ship,
Hmm.
the lead landing gear is swept back so far that it looks good, but when you land it, it nosedives. So what they did was they just added a little bit of collision magical, pixie dust
Mhm.
to basically to keep it from when you landed, it wouldn't basically take a chin dive.
Nice.
But if nobody had made a comment on that, it would have just come out live, and then you just have this.
Yeah.
But when it was released live, I was like, oh crap! Look, it's actually it's not doing it now, because they listened to the feedback.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That is a thing that it's like in other games when they say, hey, we're going to give you early access, whatever. Yeah, it's a finished game already, and what they're looking for is if everyone screams that, like, oh, no, this guy needs to have a blue shirt, not a
Yeah.
red shirt, or whatever, then it's like, okay, we can make a little swap. But really, it's just, A, let's get a couple extra shekels, and B, let's, just look to make sure that there's not any absolutely huge glaring personal where everybody's going to riot, and then we'll release it. Whereas with Star Citizen, warts and all,
Yep.
you're getting every step of the process to be a part of it. It doesn't mean you're going to get what you want, but it means you're going to get heard. And then,
Yeah.
they have to look at, quite rightly so, they shouldn't implement everything that the players want, because
Oh, no.
a part of game development is you have to get that sweet spot. You have to get that secret sauce exact. This is not a science, it is an art balance between we listen to what our customers want and give them what they want. That's a certain, you have to do a certain percentage of that, but you have to have the guts, you have to have the balls to have a certain other percentage of, fuck you, I've got a vision and we're going to make this happen. And trust me, come along with the ride, and I promise you I'm going to do my best to give you a product that you love. And finding
Perfect.
the exact equation of those two to balance it, whatever, that is an art form, and there are some geniuses out there, of which Chris Roberts is one, who have the pedigree to be able to say, you know me, I can do this, so let's go for the ride.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I want to be conscious of the fact that I've taken up way too much of your time already. I'm going to ask you a couple rapid-fire questions, and I want to upfront say I am totally shamelessly stealing from Board Gamer because he asked you these questions, but I'm going to do it in a slightly different way in the hopes of maybe eliciting a question. In fairness, I'm going to link the Board Gamer interview that he did with you guys in the notes to this video, because I think people should definitely go check out that. He is a much better interviewer than I am, so go check out his stuff.
He makes a lot of great Star Citizen content also, and is
Oh, hell yeah.
I go to him for a lot of just to kind of stay up to date with the project. He does an excellent job.
I just go to him because I think Zen is awesome. He's all right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, rapid fire. Here we go. Over under on server meshing. My guess is Q2 2021. You guys think over or under? Not asking for any details. Wiley.
I'm gonna say over, but not by much.
Which?
Oh, man, I'm gonna say under, but not by much.
Woo! It's right in that sweet spot, right? I guess kind of in a good area. All right. Next one. Over and under. Squadron 42 release. My guess says summer 2022. Wiley.
I'm gonna go over, but not by much.
Which?
Same. Over.
Okay.
Yeah.
And over and under on a little game I like to call Star Citizen. I'm saying my gut says release Christmas 2024, or if not Christmas 2024, then summer 2025. One of those two like hot, super hot sales points. And we're going to switch it up now and say, which you go first. Over or under?
Oh man, I would say, oh man, that's
Or in that window, because I gave a window.
Is that all systems? Is it all
It's
systems?
it's what I'm saying is where they say this product is now released. I think it's going to be a living game. I think we're going to see over the next 10 years Chris Roberts continue to add more value to it. But when they announce it is now released, it's on Steam, not as early access, it's in full product launch, and my window was Christmas 24 to summer 25. Over under.
Let's see, maybe under if they play if everything fits right.
Okay. Wiley?
Yeah, I think within the context of it being a live release that will continue to be evolved, I think under also.
Oh, again, if I were to say, when do I think they're going to stop working on Star Citizen? I think we're talking 2040. Because I think this game is just going to be, it's going to launch. I think it's going to be a huge success. And I think more money is going to flood in. And I think Chris is going to use that to keep playing with his little perfect playground.
I agree.
I agree, man. Yeah, Aaron Roberts said it was last year. He said that once we've got hundreds of, once server meshing is working, we've got hundreds of players that are in. That's when he feels that the game will be ready for prime time. So it's all that's and then live build after that. So
you know
what
go ahead.
We don't have any internal knowledge.
No.
Anymore. These are just guesses.
These are three assholes sitting around making guesses. Don't hold anybody legally accountable for anything.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just looking at how the results are ending up on the outside.
Okay. Yeah. And you know what else is exciting? I honestly think that around 2024-ish, we're going to see our first instance of 2024, 2025. We're going to see our first instance of hearing an article about this, whatever, EA or Activision or even better, some like upstart indie company is going to hey, they're licensing with CIG and they're going to take the, AI, they're going to take the quantum, Tony Z's, beautiful mind numbers on a chalkboard thing, and they're going to take the terrain generation from this, and they're going to take the this from that, and the this from that, and the this from that, and they're going to make basically Star Citizen, but as 1642 pirates in Cuba or whatever, and you're going to be out there doing the old, remember back from the Amiga days, the Sid Meier's Pirates? It's going to be, it's going to be, it's going to be that. I think we're going to start to see other companies reach out to CIG and just say, hey, man, let us just take your secret sauce and add our art assets, and we're going to make it Star Citizen, but, Mongolian raiders going through China, or Star Citizen, but as, people living on a dinosaur planet trying to, whatever. Like, it's just any genre you can imagine.
Yeah, Paramount licenses Star Trek.
Hell yeah. Although I like the idea of all of the other ones, because it's like, but Star Citizen is the one in space. Leave that alone. But I get it. I get it.
Yeah, totally.
They could do it. They could do a Western.
Hell yes.
Oh man, yeah.
Imagine something with the detail and fidelity of Red Dead, but massively multiplayer.
And then you find out the M. Night Shyamalan twist is you find out that the whole time you're in Westworld and they're all robots.
Yeah.
What? Guys, it has been a blast just sitting around shooting the shit with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, everything, show notes is going to have lots of stuff. I got to edit it and get everything all put together, but I hope you guys enjoy this conversation, and I hope that that it helps people to sort of see, like, hey, this is not a puff piece, this is not a hit piece, this is warts and all, the good, the bad, the ugly, what to hope for, what to worry about, what to think about, what to keep in mind, some advice. There's a lot of people that are coming on to the project now, and I want to make sure that they have the best possible start. They have all the information from which they can make informed decisions. So thank you guys so very much.
See you in the verse.
Thank you. We'll see you there.
See you in the verse.